In before the "I could have done so much better with this budget" comments. I'm well aware that many of you originally subscribed to this channel on account of our budget-oriented PC coverage. Not everyone aspires for the biggest and best out there, and in light of my custom loot build happening this week by the way, I decided to build something much more sensible and reasonable, a computer that'll cost only about 4 Benjamins, that's $400 US. I like to say up front, however, that the two most expensive components in this build are the CPU cooler and the case, both of which could be easily trimmed down, bringing the price to around $300 US if you play your cards right. At the core of this build is an AMD FX 6300, which I got from a friend for a whopping 30 bucks. I don't recommend purchasing a new FX processor with Zen releasing in March, but if you can find one with a steep discount for a budget build, handy downs are always the best for these kinds of PCs, don't let the offer slip away. The processor still holds its own in gaming, falling between the performance of an Intel i3 and an Intel Pentium, more on that right here. As for the motherboard, I purchased this Asus Micro ATX AM3 board from Micro Center for $15 US. You can find some epic deals if you're willing to make the trip to a store like MC. I drove 3.5 hours to the one in Houston for this budget beauty, and I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. It isn't the prettiest or most functional, but it's a heck of a steal considering it's still technically brand new. Next up, 8GB of Crucial Ballistic Sport DDR3 for $30. Kinda strange that system RAM here costs as much as the CPU. You could probably find a cheaper used kit on eBay or elsewhere if you're willing to be patient. Local Craigslist ads are also great sources of used PC components, provided they work as advertised. Next up, the graphics card. I was tempted to go full on RX 480 here, but decided to step back a generation to keep the price down. I've also already tested that combo right here. The CPU proved to be a massive bottleneck. In comes the R9 380 I revealed a few videos ago. Regardless, however, our FX 6300 will be holding us back in quite a few 1080p titles. For the power supply, I went with a 600 watt EVGA 80 Plus PSU that I found at Best Buy for, get this, $29.95. Not bad for a brand new unit, and 600 watts at that. It might not be a top tier unit, but it'll do just fine in this rig. I've actually used a few of these exact power supplies in the past without issues. They're quiet, cheap, and reliable. I speak from experience. For storage, nothing fancy here, just a 1TB Toshiba hard disk drive that I pulled from the pre-built CyberPower PC. You can find 1TB drives used and new from anywhere between $20 and $40 US safely. The Seagate drive is 30 bucks, so that's what I'll use in the price breakdown. It'll provide plenty of storage for games, movies, and other system files. Feel free though to add in an SSD for Windows if you're up for throwing in an extra 40 bucks. Now for the last two pieces of the puzzle, the ones you can hot swap without affecting performance much at all. I say that because overclockability on this motherboard is restrictive, being that it isn't 990FX and that power deliverability is relatively low. I did this more or less because I could. That's it. There's no other explanation for it. I managed to fit a Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro 3, a massive CPU air cooler, into a fractal design to Fine Mini C. Absolutely epic. But this is of course where the budget sort of balloons. Swap these two with a $40 case and a Hyper 212 Evo for instance, and you've got yourself a $300-ish gaming PC. But I wanted to try out this case, and I quickly discovered that I am in love with it. It's probably the most enjoyable case to build in that I've ever built in. Micro ATX is a beautiful and dying breed, but I'm glad Fractal hasn't forgotten. I love the basement, soundproof panels, wide stance, cable management headroom, and overall build quality. My only complaint, no cutouts for VGA cable routing. That's really it, everything else was top notch. So this is what it's come down to. About 400 bucks for an FX 6300 R9 380 combo and a beautiful case with an epic CPU cooler. Again, you probably want to scratch that one. Stock cooler sounds hideous, but it'll keep the price much lower to 300 bucks, and something like a Hyper T4 is only going to set you back about $20. I was still, however, able to reach 4.6 GHz on the FX 6300. Anything above that, and the computer would refuse to boot. But what does this price tag earn you? Well, in GTA 5, about 51 FPS on the latest AMD drivers. Lows stayed well above 30, even with high settings across the board. Witcher 3 nearly suffocated the graphics card with the same preset though. Our average only touched 45 FPS here, but dropping settings just a bit further picked up the slack. Battlefield 1 seemed to manage just fine with this combination, 63 FPS on high settings in 1080p, and raising this resolution to 1440p, I did this just because I was curious, only resulted in an 8 FPS dip in both the minimum and average. Lastly, if you're into some casual racing, Microsoft's Forza 6 Apex will not disappoint. This game could practically run on anything relatively modern without a hitch. Gameplay will be smooth and consistent here, no questions asked. So there you have it. Even for around $300 US, you could build a relatively decent 1080p gaming machine capable of handling modern AAA titles. Sure, you could probably do better, and there's always someone who can find something for super cheap from either a buddy or someone on Craigslist. Old Xeons are also a great option, but I still think a 6-core unlocked CPU is a great buy for $30. Not to mention, AM3 boards are downright cheap compared to their LGA counterparts. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. If you feel the complete opposite, be sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. I will catch you in the next video. It is Super Bowl time. This is Salazar Studio. Thanks for learning with us.